He abandoned us. You know, I mean, what the hell kind of leader does that? I mean, he just, as soon as the shots were fired in Iraq, he turned and ran the other way and hung his hat up and quit.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk a little bit more about accusations of stolen valor against Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who is Kamala Harris's VP pick in the Democratic Party for the 2024 presidential election. Now, the story, before we get to the clip you saw earlier, the story is that Tim Walz is in the National Guard, and in 2005, his unit was set to go overseas, I believe, to Iraq. Rather than going with his unit, he retired and then ran for Congress. That's the allegation against him. How are you going to say you were a leader and you were all this and you went to war when it was time to get going? You said, no, I don't want to do it. I'm going to just stay at the house. Why are you in the National Guard if you don't want to get deployed when they get deployed? What's the purpose? You're just trying to collect a check? What's going on? And a lot of military people do not like stuff like this. They don't, because they take this very seriously, as they should. You are representing this country, defending this country, putting your life on the line for this country. And you got guys like this that say they went places they didn't go, and you're in the Guard 24 years. And when it's time to really, really get activated and really go and do something, you run away. Complete coward. Now, before I go any further, let's hear from Tom Behrens. Tom Behrens served with Tim Walz in the Minnesota National Guard. So I think if anyone would know about this man, it'd be Tom Behrens, okay? Now, before we get into it, let's look at this caption here. And shout out to iMemeO for reposting this from Alpha News. And I did check Alpha News out. They are a real organization. Shout out to them. Now, it says here, Minnesota National Guard leaders exposed Tim Walz for stolen valor, lying about his rank, and quitting when his unit was deployed to Iraq. Quote, as soon as the shots were fired in Iraq, he turned and ran the other way and hung up his hat and quit, said Tom Behrens, a retired command sergeant major who replaced Tim Walz on deployment. So when Tim Walz said, I don't want to go, I'm going to stay home, I'm going to be a career politician, this man stepped up and did what Tim Walz was called to do. But before I go any further and get any more triggered, let's go ahead and roll it.
He's back again to wage a public war of words against Tim Walz.
He abandoned us. You know, I mean, what the hell kind of leader does that? I mean, he just, as soon as the shots were fired in Iraq, he turned and ran the other way and hung his hat up and quit.
We'll get to Behrens' new message for voters in a moment. But this all starts years earlier, when Behrens says Walz's misleading statements about his military service first led him to come forward in the fall of 2018.
Let's pause right there. That's a key point that you need to focus on. 2018, this man came out and said what he said. So it's not a new thing to try and impact the campaign for Kamala. No. This has been going on for a very long time, years. Because he's been in politics for a long time. He's been in the public eye for a long time. So his past is most certainly going to be topic of conversation. Let's keep on going.
So you try to get this message out, but Minnesota's largest newspaper checks it out, says it's 100% true, but yet refuses to print.
When I hung the phone up, I said, what the hell is this, North Korea?
Back in 2005, a warning order went out to the 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery to mobilize for a mission to Iraq. At the time, Walz served as the unit's highest non-commissioned officer, but months later, Walz would retire from the Guard, avoid the deployment, and run for Congress. Tom Behrens was next in line for the position and was asked to take his place.
I was like, well, for Pete's sake, if this guy quit, and if I say I'm not going to do it, I mean, what the hell kind of leadership is that? If a company would say that we're going to deploy to Iraq or somewhere and you're going to be gone for whatever amount of time, and then the foreman just says, no, I'm not going. I mean, what does that say to the 500 people that work in that factory?
Behrens would go on to serve in Iraq on a nearly 2-year deployment as a command sergeant major. All while Walz began using that title as a congressman. Behrens says he first contacted Walz with his concerns, sending these letters to Washington. They all went unanswered.
Now, there's a lot more we got to get into, but first, a word from our sponsor. Online data brokers sell your information to scammers, hackers, and anyone who wants to use that information against you. Your full name, home address, health records, Even your relatives' information is all out there for sale. I mean, look at what they found about me. That's why I've been using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information, and they automatically submit opt-out requests on my behalf. Cleaning up my information not only helps me reduce spam, but it also protects me from hackers who may want to access my bank accounts, social media accounts, or maybe even the inside of my home. I had to learn this the hard way back when I got swatted. It's 2019, I'm streaming as normal, and before I know it, I have not one, not two, but 6 cops at my back door, guns drawn. They tell us, get outside, get on the ground. They go through the house and they come back apologetic. I'm sorry, Mr. Logan, we got an anonymous tip that somebody was in your house tied up and bleeding, and we had to come check it out. Now, I believe the person who sent that false report probably purchased my information from an online data broker. You may be thinking, why would I need Aura? I'm not a streamer. I'm not a YouTuber. How can this help me, ABL? Well, AT&T just revealed that over 73 million customer records, both existing and former customers, were released to the dark web. AT&T recommends you use stronger passwords and monitor your account activity, and maybe even consider a credit freeze or a fraud alert from a credit bureau. Well, Aura does all the above for me, and the best part is I don't need a million different apps, all because one company cannot keep my data secure. I value my privacy and I value yours. Visit aura.com/Anthony Logan through the link in the description to start your free 2-week trial today.
But then we fast forward to the election in 2018 in Minnesota, and you try at that time to get people's attention with this story, and also with what seems to be a very misleading statement that he continued to make about his service.
It kind of just sat there. When he was a congressman, he bragged that he was a command sergeant, retired command sergeant major. I'm the highest ranking person ever in the House, and all this.
That's making me upset. And I'm not military. People always say, "Are you former military?" No, I'm not military. Dad was in the Marines. Hoorah. I think granddad was in the Army. My uncle, my mom's brother, was in the Navy. He retired, did 20 plus years. I got a lot of military in my family. I respect the military 100%. You guys are amazing. Shout out to you. So I empathize with what my man is saying right here. I know a lot of guys just like this. Black, white, whatever. A lot of guys.
Lie that he was telling the state of Minnesota.
Oh, and before I continue, I almost forgot. I had an uncle that died in Vietnam. Like, I got a lot of military people in my family, so that's why I can really connect to my man. But let me stop interrupting.
It came out after 2018, after this was exposed, and they said, well, he can say that he served as a command sergeant major, but he can't say he's a retired one because he's not.
And that's what he was saying.
And he was saying that, and there was lots of lots of cards coming in the mail, for him to be elected. They said right on there he's a retired command sergeant major, just tooting his own horn, just hanging on the coattails of people that actually are command sergeant majors that went through all the process and put all the time in.
A spokesperson.
Now, some are going to say that he's kind of being petty with the definition and the certain words, or where you were a command sergeant major, but you're not a retired command sergeant major. Yes, there's a difference. And what he's explaining is a difference. And you can't just use certain words. Words have meaning. Phrases have meaning. Titles have meaning. And when you use them, when you didn't earn it, that is what they call stolen valor, or at least that's part of it. But let's continue.
Person for the Minnesota National Guard said Walz wasn't able to retire as a command sergeant major since he failed to complete coursework and requirements related to the rank. Verified documents show the Army corrected his service record. Walz was reduced in rank to an E8 Master Sergeant after retirement and his conditional promotion. Alpha News again asked Governor Walz if he's using the Command Sergeant Major rank on his campaign website for political gain this year. A spokesperson said this has been in the news before and pointed us to a past story where Walz said, quote, "Normally this type of partisan political attack only comes from one who's never worn a uniform."
See, that's a PR response. That's a PR team responding without responding, because the issue is, are you a retired command sergeant major or not? What's going on? We don't got to try to attack nobody else. Just answer the question. How about that? Now, this might be an older video because they're saying it's like for his campaign. So this might have been a few years ago, but that's part of the point. This is not a new attack. because it's a real thing. And he can't say anything to the contrary because it's real. And if this is this guy's character, why would they want him to be the VP with this checkered past? Could this guy even pass a background check for a gun? I don't know. I'm doing too much. Let me keep on going.
It's stolen valor is really what it is.
Yes.
I don't know of anybody else that's done what he's done. But we called it The Truth About Tim Walz.
In 2018, Barron's gave the story the full court press.
We, retired command sergeant majors of the Minnesota National Guard, feel it is our duty and responsibility to bring forth the truth as we know it concerning his service record. I put together information on it and I sent it out to every single radio station and newspaper and TV station I could in the state. The bottom line in all of this is gut-wrenching and sad to explain. When the nation called, he quit.
Twin Cities TV stations and the Star Tribune were silent, even after Barron says the newspaper checked it all out. The Star Tribune endorsed Walz in 2018 for governor. Between lockdowns, riots, unchecked crime, and a charred police precinct, Barron's felt he had no choice but again to come forward.
Allowing that to be burned down was just like having the Alamo get burned down. It's like, no, you defend that to the last man. You know, if he would have went to Iraq, he'd still be hiding under his desk over there. Because that's just, just the cowardice that I seen portrayed with him.
So how about when he also comes out and he calls you guys 19-year-old cooks?
I'd take any 19-year-old cook before I'd go to war with him. I don't know how he could even utter such a statement. I mean, it's just absolutely sad.
So this election year, it's all built up again to Barron's new grain bin message.
He called Jacob Fry an abject failure. So I was like, that's what he is.
Walz is a traitor, also made a return.
And the last one I put together, he said it himself too, as well, if they don't like my job, they can vote me out. So I wrote, we got to vote him out. We need to vote him out.
So yeah, I don't think Tim Walz is super popular in Minnesota. Is he even popular in Minneapolis? Like the epicenter of all the nonsense. Is he even popular there? I mean, I can't tell. But as I close, I want to say this. Tim Walz, you got some explaining to do, sir. You have some explaining to do, but really there's nothing to explain. There's nothing to explain. You are who you are. So you got to just own that. What are you going to do on the debate stage with this man? What are you really going to tell him when he's asking you, hey, are you a retired command sergeant major for the National Guard in Minnesota? Yes or no? How are you going to answer? You're going to totally alienate all the military people and their families. But hey, that's who the Kamala campaign chose, so it is what it is. That's on them. That's their fault. I'm not here to try to fix their problems. They got to do with that come election time. And I think it's looking a lot like they're going to lose tremendously. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your take on what's happening here with Tim Walz being exposed by someone else from the National Guard? One of his buddies in the Guard is saying, hey, this guy wasn't who he says he, like, it's not coming from just random people, talking heads, people like me. No. We're talking about the people that actually served with him. The guy that took his place as the leader when Tim Walz ran away. I think I'd take his word for it over anyone else's out there about his military experience. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.